Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to the latest Same Old Arsenal podcast with me, Suburban Gooner Chris, in my garden because it is flipping hot. And so I was doing that today. So if you hear any people shouting, if any balls come over from the adjacent houses and I have to go and collect them and chuck them over, I do apologise. That is one of the benefits of doing live streams. And for this live stream, my partner in crime, as always, is Mr. Cook. How you doing, mate? You all right?
I'm not bad, mate. Although I have to say, I'm very jealous of your situation being sat out there. I'm currently in my flat, sandwiched between two other flats, and let me tell you, it is like a sweatbox in my office at the back. It is absolutely roasted. But yeah, looking forward to chatting it through with you, and great to have Mark on the show as well.
Yeah, really good, Mark. How are you doing? It's our guest. It's what are you, Captain Scarlet Stubble on the
Something
place
like
which I don't like to mention.
No idea, mate. Yeah, you're too busy on Blue Sky. I don't know, Captain Scarlet Stubble, some nonsense thing like that. Just find
How are
someone
you,
arguing with people, and that'll be me. Yeah, good, thank you, mate. I'm
How
good.
is your Arsenal
Enjoying.
brain right now?
It was pretty relaxed. You know, I was like really after we went out to PSG. That was it. I was switched off. Like, couldn't be asked. To be fair, I was just going through the motions for the rest of the season. Looking forward to actually not having to, watch games and shit, and just have a break from it all. And I was quite relaxed, and then quite confident and optimistic about the transfer window, and that's gradually starting to
Ebb away.
yeah, definitely. The confidence, the whole thing with Berta coming in and that, and being a bit like, yeah, we're gonna sort our shit. No more pictures of a geezer on a barbecue smoking a big cigar. We are out there. We are doing business. We are confusing people with different stories just to get them off guard. And yeah, who knows? That's probably what's still going on, but it's just starting to get a bit panicky, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Do you know what? We're going to dedicate most of this show today to having a little look at the fixtures and having a discussion about how we hope or think things might unfold. I will get to that, but let's just do 5-10 minutes talking about where we're collectively our heads are at. James, I'll start with you, and then Mark, you can elaborate on some of the things you've just been talking about. Maybe we'll go into specifics. We can talk about the Partey stuff because that's just recently broken. How he might not be signing a new contract. We can talk about the endless Šeško Gyökeres noises and transfer tittle-tattle that we're hearing. We can talk about Zubimendi if we want. But James, last time, obviously, we were on this podcast was just at the post-season review. And so for us over here at the Same Old Arsenal, we've been kind of on a bit of a hiatus as we all take a little bit of time in the sun. Since then, can you just give me some general thoughts as to where your head's at from a transfer market perspective? And I think Mark led us in as quite a good segue there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, since we did that show, I've been trying very hard not to think too much about Arsenal. I think we really needed a bit of a break at the end of the season. So much went on. It was so exhausting with the run in the Champions League, the injuries, everything. I was just like, right, I'm going to switch off. But I say that, here I am every single day, relentlessly refreshing my Twitter feed, looking for an announcement of something. And I don't know about you guys, but I think in seasons gone by, like maybe 10, 15 years ago, it would be a bit unusual to have your business sewn up so early in June. Like, it was pretty normal for it to go into July and even August when the season started. So for me, I still feel like it's quite early. These aren't quick and easy deals that we're doing. And it's not, I don't think it's that easy to attack the market with the players that we're trying to get over the line. So I'm confident there's stuff going on in the background. Obviously, seeing the fixtures that have come out, and it doesn't help when you see Liverpool going and signing Frimpong, Kerkez, Wirtz. You just want us to be doing those exact same things and getting our business done early. So I'm a little bit apprehensive. What I want is the key players, at least the striker, to be brought in ahead of the pre-season so we can bed them in, start the season strongly. But it is still very, very early. But obviously, then you look at the Partey news that's come out today that he's looking more and more closer to leaving. That's another problem that is adding to a list of tasks that have to be done this window. So I have concerns that, we're not getting more time. Time is getting less and less. And the list of things to do is getting bigger and bigger. So that's my main concern. I just hope that in the next week, we can get some serious talks, forget talks. You know, we've had enough of that all window. Get some serious business done. And I haven't seen anything to suggest that we're not heading in that direction, Chris. So I'm quietly optimistic.
Do you know, it's interesting, and I want to get Mark. I've got 3 questions for you that I want to ask, but I'm sort of going to lead into my thoughts on them first. So the first one is on where I'm at in terms of, am I starting to get a little bit nervy, and what impact is the fact that we've had these two weird sort of transfer windows with a week break in between, and that relates to the Frimpong and what other clubs are perceived to be doing. I'm still not that antsy at the moment. But I feel like my question to you, Mark, will be, what's your kind of moment in which you tip into the, all right, this is taking the piss now. We need to start getting some deals over the line here. I feel like for me, it's probably going to be, if we hit July and all we've done is Zubimendi, I'm probably going to be like, nah, you need to hurry up now because you're 2 weeks away from pre-season. So that's first question. So when do you start getting antsy? Second question, because it links to what James was talking about. How do you feel about the Thomas Partey stuff? And I've forgotten the third question, so let's just focus on those 2.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what the tipping point would be, mate. I mean, I understand completely what James is saying, and like James is obviously, because he's a young fella, he's a bit more optimistic, a bit more patient.
Well, Mark, let me stop you there. If I was a player, I would be in my twilight years now. I'd be in the party zone of pushing for that last big contract. So looks can be deceiving, mate.
Well, okay, fair enough, mate. You're not a grumpy old git like me who probably has less patience, and the threshold is the bar for me losing my shit is a lot lower. I think the issue that we've got is that, you know, like, let's put it this way: one, Arsenal fans, especially on social media and especially on Twitter, will lose their shit at the first opportunity that they get. Yeah, not much is required there to start them running around like one of those memes, everyone going like that. Yeah, that's quite easy to happen. 2, we came off 2 really bad transfer windows. You know, there's absolutely no denying that last summer's window and then like compounded in January have just, you know, really kind of given us all a bit of the heebie-jeebies about what the club's going to do. You then add into that, we got Berta. So as I was saying to Chris just before you joined us, James, it's like, but you know, you look like you've got a really decent sporting director. Typical Arsenal, though, we can't do things the easy way. There's lots of stories about, yeah, Berta and Arteta, they don't get on. They've got different ideas. Berta wants Gyökeres, Arteta wants a Sesko. You know, so there's never, Arsenal will never do anything the easy way. It's what, 19th of June. We're slowly approaching July. You know, you've got other clubs seemingly doing business. You know, yet to other than Man City, I don't think I've seen many official announcements, players in shirts, etc. They've gone out and done what they needed to do, and I think, you know, they spent a big wodge and did a lot in January, and they've gone early this time. And you know, there has to be, you have to start wondering if there's a reason behind that. But with us, it's like it's starting to drag on, and it's like other things that, like, we wasted a lot of time seemingly interested in Nico Williams, who then goes to Barca. No huge surprise there, I don't think. Yeah. Now we're talking about Rodrigo. Yeah. All of a sudden, Rodrigo is a possibility. Well, that's going to take up a lot of our time waiting to see if they really, really want Rodrigo. They're going to have to wait because, you know, not only is it the Club World Cup, and like new manager, all of those things are going to delay any possible transfer of Rodrigo. So we know we need wide players, and then you've got this situation with the 2 strikers. Yeah. And it's hilarious on Twitter because if Arsenal do sign Gyökeres, there is going to be a massive amount of accounts that are going to have to do like a real U-turn on what they've been saying about Gyökeres. You know, I've seen some proper slander to the guy, and I'm not saying that slander is wrong or without basis, but there's been a lot of stuff said about him. But you've got this thing where it seems like we're interested in both strikers, but nothing really seems to be kind of firming up on it. You know, we're not getting anything real concrete around it. And again, there's a lot of, like you said, James, these things don't happen quickly. There's a lot of negotiations going on. Players are on holiday. So, you know, what will be the tipping point is, I think if we get to pre-season and there's no real players, I mean, I'm expecting Zubimendi and Kepa to be announced fairly soon. I'm thinking one of them will be on Monday, to be fair, or both of them, because those two deals seemed like they were fairly easy to do. But I think we all know that we desperately need a striker, and the longer we go without a striker, that's when people will really, really start getting twitchy. What the point is that I will turn and say what is going on, I'm not sure, but it could be if we see targets going to other clubs.
Yeah, so it's not so much time for you, it's more as the options dwindle. All right, so Thomas Partey, let's just say his contract is expiring in a week and a bit's time. Are you in let's not talk about the contentious stuff, but are you in the camp that's just like, let's just finish this now and start moving on? Or are you in the one more year if we can get it camp?
I'm in the goodbye, Thomas, and thank you for your service. This was undoubtedly, it's weird. It was a bit like Xhaka. You know, Xhaka had his 6 years or whatever he was here, and like the last season he had with this was his best season, and then off he went. You know, to Partey, this has been his best season, probably his best. It's without a doubt his best season in terms of availability, which with Thomas Partey was probably, you know, the main thing that we were always worried about. But again, I'm not 100% sold on how awesome he was when he did play, how vital he is to the team. I think, you know, with Zubimendi coming in, you've definitely got your first choice deep line playmaker there, and it seems like Rice will play in front of him. You know, in games you could play both double pivot. You know, there is talk about Miles Lewis-Skelly getting an opportunity to show what he can do in his original position. But again, you know, what do we do then about left back, given that Lewis-Skelly was so brilliant? I know you said discount the external stuff. I'm not sure you can, mate, to be fair. It's not a good situation. It's not a good situation. And I am surprised that the club that goes on about class and tradition and doing the right thing, I'm surprised that they were even countenancing extending him, you know, asking for another year or whatever. I would have liked the club to just have gone, okay, Thomas, thank you very much, and you know, off you go and find yourself a nice new contract playing somewhere else. Because I do think it does come into it. You know, I don't want our club to just put their head in the sand around things like that. And so for that, and also for the other reasons, I think it's time to say thanks, Thomas, and off you go.
Yeah, I do agree. I think for me, I always tend to focus in on the on-pitch stuff, and the on-pitch stuff, I can't get beyond the fact that we've only had him for 1.5, maybe 2 seasons out of 5, and you can't offer. And if the noises are true, James, that he wants like an increase in his salary, you can't justify that at all. I don't think. There's over 250 of you in the chat. If you'd like to do a like and subscribe on this, that would be absolutely fantastic. Or just pop into the chat your thoughts on, just do Thomas Partey stay or go. Let's just get a bit of a straw poll going, and James, you can count up Thomas Partey stay or go. Whack that in the chat. And then also second question, which was my first question to the gents, which was around, when do you get antsy? If you were to pick a date for which you would get antsy, what would in terms of, we've had no incomings on transfers, what would it be? For me, I think it's that 1st of July point. So let's get some people giving us some opinions in the chat. James, should we talk about the fixtures, because they came out on Tuesday? And I say that it's a rhetorical question. We're going to talk about the fixtures. I'm going to show them up on screen, but I'm giving you some sort of option that you don't have. Should we have a little look at the let's look at the opening sort of 6-8 games?
Yeah, it's not the easiest of starts, to say the very least, but I'm in the camp of, I'm quite happy to get these games out of the way early. I mean, playing United away on the very first day, where we never ever seem to do well. I mean, even when we won there, you know, a couple of seasons ago, it was that 1-0 win. It wasn't the nicest of games, and that was a dreadful United side. And then obviously we went there last season, dreadful United side again, and we drew. So I'm happy to get that out of the way nice and early on the first day and hopefully break the hoodoo and get a win. But then equally delighted to be getting Newcastle away out of the way and Liverpool away out of the way early. And we play City at home as well. So, it's going to be tough, and I don't want us to be playing catch up too much. I don't want us to be dropping too many points. But, if we're no more than 5 points behind top spot, having got those games out of the way, then I think great. Like that's absolutely fine because that will hopefully stand us in good stead for the end of the season. I think between January and May, we have like one away game against the top 7. Now, obviously, these fixtures are going to change. We might end up playing Spurs in March for, a Carabao Cup tie that's been rearranged or whatever. So I'm not, taking them as gospel too much. But if they're on paper, if they weren't to change, and I think it's a favourable run-in for us. But we just got to make sure we're there or thereabouts when it comes to like February, March time, because what you don't want is obviously to have a dreadful start to the season. That won't add to the feeling that's going on right now around the club where, let's say we are in, the later end of August and we've not brought in all the targets that we need. So imagine if the striker discussion is still going on when we come to play Liverpool away. And we go into the deadline day still not having signed a striker. Jesus, can you imagine what that would be like? But yeah, I'm happy to get the tough ones out of the way, but it's imperative we do our business early. Like this fixture release should really be an incentive now for the club to go out and make sure we get those targets in for pre-season, because you don't want to be, it's worthless bringing in a Sesko or a Gyökeres or a whoever it may be 1 or 2 days before that United game, because they're not going to start, are they? We want whoever it is, whether it's Havertz, whether it's Sesko, whether it's Gyökeres, we want to take a look at all of them. And we want to be like, okay, that's our starting striker for that game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm optimistic. It's not ideal, but I'm happy to get them out of the way early.
Yeah, okay. I am not of the same view. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to ponder on it. So I've got the first 2, 4, 6, 8. Let's just call it 8 fixtures on screen. Have a little think whilst I'm talking. I want you to give me a number of points that you think we'll get, and then a number of points that you think are okay, we're in good shakes. I am of the view that momentum is everything. In 2007, 2008, we won of our first 10 games. We won, I think, 7 of the first 10, and I feel like we played 6 or 7 of those at home. And that helped us to sustain a prolonged charge for the title, even though we were nowhere near good enough until about, I think it was February, March time, when Eduardo had that horrendous leg break. And that obviously derailed us. I think that might have been February time. In 2022-23, which was the season that we first sort of started on this run of 3 times we've been runners-up under Arteta, we started the first 5 games. I think the first 6 games we won 5 and lost 1, and that was the game at Old Trafford. And by 10 games, I think we'd won 9 and lost 1. So that momentum was actually massive. Last season, we were a bit stuttery because we had such difficult games. So for me, I'm always subscribing to the view that I want an easier start so that we can get into the cadence of delivering on results and points. And I look at that, and it looks really, really tough. And I look at that and I think we've got a terrible record at Man United. We've won there like twice in 20 years. It's pathetic given how terrible they've been over the years. So I look at that and think that could easily, Man United, not a good football team right now, but they won't have played any games. There'll be some hope. There'll be, it'll be everyone's on a level playing field. First game of the season. They'll be massively up for it. I look at that and think, with our record up there, it wouldn't surprise me if we ended up with a draw. You beat Leeds United at home, I would take that. So we're up to 4 points. Liverpool, we've got another terrible record up there, but we've drawn the last couple of seasons, so I take another point there. So that's 5. Forest, I want 3, so I'm up to 3 points there, so I'm up to 8. Man City at home, I really want to do that as well. I'm going to go for a 3-pointer on there. That's what I really think we need to be getting. So that's 9, 10, 11. Newcastle away, terrible record. I'd take a point. That's 12. If I'm looking at that first 6 games, I'm basically saying if we get to 12 points, we're sort of all right. So draw those 3 tough away games. So I want to ask, and people in the chat, if you can tell us how many points you think we'd get after, let's do 8 games actually, because I think Arsenal and West Ham and Fulham, I think we beat those. So if I'm taking my 12, I'll up that to 18 points from the first 18. But if you can pop in the chat number of points that you think we'll get, which is acceptable. So for me, 18 points after 8 games, and I'm saying that'll do. What's yours, James?
I would be also happy with 12, 12 out of 18 points. But even looking beyond those first 6 games, I think that Fulham one's tough. I remember them being a really tough place to go to the past couple of seasons. So I'm not counting that as an easy game. I'm certainly not counting that as a given. But I just think it's imperative that we don't get rolled over at either Liverpool or Newcastle. Like, I want us to go to one of those places and win. Ideally, like
Yeah.
if we could get 14 points, I think that's a really, really, really good return. So that's basically everything you've said there, but win in one of those games against Liverpool or Newcastle. I just don't think we can. I mean, I don't want us to lose at Newcastle in the way that we did last year. We were dreadful away when we played them in November. I remember watching that and just thinking this is just the sort of game where we've not turned up, and that's not really been too much of a frequency under Arteta. Like, the minimum you're going to get is some effort, but in that game we just weren't there or thereabouts whatsoever. But I think we'll just make a statement really if we beat one of those sides. And I know Newcastle, obviously, people might say it's nothing special to go up there and beat them, but for us it's significant because we've got such a poor record there. So yeah, if we could get 14, I'd be very, very, very happy. If we got 12, I'd be very satisfied as well. It's just making sure we're still, like I said before, there or thereabouts.
Mark, same question to you then. So you're looking at those fixtures. So there's 2 answers here. We'll go for the first, if you can give me based on the first 6, and then we'll do the 8 as well, because we asked people in the chat to do the 8. What would be your expectation that what's the bare minimum that you think we will get? And what would you say is, okay, that's a good return? We're cooking on gas here.
I think if you're just looking at the 6, I'd say 12 points. So
Yeah.
I think we'll beat United. I mean, look, you're talking to someone who went to Man United first game of the season as the league champions, and we got absolutely battered many years ago. So yeah, I understand that, and we do seem to have a psychological issue. We go there and play some of the worst Man United teams ever, and we just don't do what we need to do a lot of the time. But I think we'll beat United. United are a mess. We will not be a mess, and we will edge out that game. So we beat United, we beat Leeds, but I mean, again, that ain't going to be an easy game because Leeds are going to be well up for their first away game. Arsenal draw at Liverpool, beat Forest. I think we draw with City and draw with Newcastle. I would kind of take those just because I think it's imperative, as Cookie said, don't get beat by Liverpool, don't get beat by City. Those are the 2 games, because you have to put down a marker and say, yeah, you're not going to beat us, because the thing as well is that we need to remember that the big games aren't our problem that much. It's the 7th and 8th game there, West Ham at home, Fulham away. I mean, what we lost at home to West Ham. Did we lose away at Fulham, or did we get a draw at Fulham, or did we lose? I can't remember.
No, we drew, didn't we? We drew.
Yeah, it might be a draw. So our record with West Ham, other than playing there, we play there, we go and we batter them. We play them at home, and they beat us, and it's just ridiculous. Fulham, tough games. It's those teams that cost us the league last season. It wasn't the big games. The big games we held our own.
Yeah.
It was the middle table teams. But losing home and away to Bournemouth. I know the home game against Bournemouth was like, no one seemed to care that much, and we were just rubbish. But those games, those are the ones that he needs to sort the mentality out and sort out how to deal with those low to mid blocks that we struggle with. And that's why it's so key that he gets us, probably the 2 players you need, like the world-class someone out on the left and the world-class centre forward, that will help us get past those teams that we've been struggling against.
Yeah. I want to stick on that, the left winger, because I was asked a question earlier, and I was doing some work earlier, and I was asked a question, agree or disagree, Arsenal should sell Gabriel Martinelli. I disagreed with that because I don't think we've got enough pace in our team as it is. So taking one out, putting one back in, you've got to get another one on top of that anyway. So I don't think selling him works. I want to ask that question to you guys because you were talking about the left wing position. I think we all agree we need a left wing position. Cooks, I'll start with you, but then same question to you, Mark. And particularly after we've heard all of this stuff with Williams, and Mark mentioned it earlier, I was never really that hot on Williams because I've looked at his numbers and they look very similar to Martinelli's numbers anyway. And he's only a year younger than Martinelli. So for me, I want something different. I want something different to Martinelli, but I don't want to replace Martinelli. I want him to have competition, and I don't think Trossard is that competition. What's your view, James, on the left wing position in terms of the urgency? We've heard the names Rodrigo, we've heard Williams, but he's going to Barcelona. I saw something an hour or so ago talking about Noni Madueke, which confused the hell out of me. But give me some thoughts on what you think we need. You don't have to give names, but what you think we need in that left wing position. And does that actually incentivize Martinelli to really step up and have that 15-goal season like he had 2 seasons ago?
Yeah, it's been an interesting one, hasn't it? Because everyone's been talking about, if we sign a left winger, then we're going to have to get rid of one of Martinelli or Trossard. I don't quite see it that way, because I think with someone like Trossard, he's just a really good utility player to have. I think last season, because of the injuries, he played way too many games than I think any of us would have expected, whether that be a left wing, centre forward, on the right side. He was kind of here, there, and everywhere. And I think that was to his detriment towards the end, because we weren't quite seeing him be as potent as he normally is. But he still had a good rate of return. If you look at his goals, his assists, he's not a player that I'd be looking to move on anytime soon. And to have a player that can be an option in various areas, I just think he's a really handy player to have around. But you asked me about Martinelli, not Trossard, so I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there. But I definitely wouldn't be in a rush to get rid of Martinelli, because what I think you would lose in him would be too much. He knows the system inside out. His work rate is fantastic. You know that as a bare minimum, even if he's having a bad game, he's going to run like a Yorkshire Terrier up and down that left-hand side all game long. And he's got a really good defensive acumen. So for me, no chance. I would not be moving him on. The one thing I would say is that we need someone with better end products. Too many times Martinelli gets into positions where he's one-on-one with a defender, and he just tries to take it round him. Occasionally gets past him, but more often than not, he doesn't. Not only that, his crossing can be improved. And if you look at some of those chances he missed against PSG in both legs of the semi-final, he has to finish those. Like when he's one-on-one with the keeper, he has to finish those. His finishing in his first season, when he was so much younger, when he was 18, 19, was immaculate. Whereas now it seems to be his, kind of thing that needs to be most worked on. So, we need competition there for sure. Trossard's not getting any younger. Martinelli's inconsistent, but he is a player that you can depend upon. He's often fit, works hard, as I say. But if we can have someone who we know, like a Rodrigo, who would be the dream signing, is going to deliver everything that you need and has that talent, that ability. It's hard to say exactly what we need. I can't quite put my finger on it. I don't know. I really can't tell you if what is more important, the left winger or the striker. Off the top of my head, it would have to be the striker. If we started the season with Martinelli and Saka on the flanks, with Sesko, Gyökeres, or even Kai Havertz up top, I wouldn't be totally upset about that at all. I'm quite happy with our winger options. But someone's put Leao in the chat, and I think that's a pretty decent shout as well. He's a player that excites me. But again, can be unpredictable, can be a little bit inconsistent. It's a tough one, mate. Unlike the striker, there's a lot of options out there.
Yeah. Do you know what? I'm going to pop up on screen just transfer marks, top sort of, but this is by value, market value, by the left winger's position. So I'll quickly just familiarise yourselves with some of these names, which you'll obviously be very familiar with. Leao's in there, Rafinha's in there. Interesting. Williams going to Barcelona. What are they going to do about Rafinha? Because Rafinha is not going to want to play second fiddle, having just gone off of something like 28-goal season. As I'm just scrolling through some of those names, Mark, do you want to give some thoughts and just put your 2 pence in with regards to the left winger side as I'm scrolling through? I'm doing this just to stimulate some debate. If there's any people on there that you think, yeah, I'd take him.
Yeah, I think one of the things we need to remember is that KSE hasn't got an endless pot of money, and they're not going to plow money in. It's just not going to happen, So there comes a point where if we want to spend a lot of money, and if you're going to spend sort of 70, 80 million on one of the 2 centre forwards, and you've already spent 50, 60 on Zubimendi, and then you're looking at a left winger, you do have to start thinking, well, what saleable assets do we have? And that maybe at some point, one of them is going to have to be sacrificed. And to be fair, I'm not convinced we've got many saleable assets that we'd actually countenance letting go. It's obviously there are some of them that are untouchable, but there are others Martinelli is definitely one of them, who you probably could see being sacrificed to get a chunk of money in. I think with Martinelli, and I understand what Cookie's saying, but he's not progressed in the way that I think we all would have hoped. You know, when we all first saw him, we were like, look, this kid, he's got pace, he's got skills and that, you know, and he hasn't come on. Now you look at him and you're thinking, hold on, this is 3-4 years later, and you're getting the ball at your feet and you're still got your head down looking at the ground. You know, you're not taking that ball and running at that defender, twisting him inside out. There's not many times he takes on a defender and he beats him. You know, so what so I think a lot of people are probably running out a bit of patience with him, and might countenance a sale to bring some money to put towards the world-class left winger I think we need. I'd like us to bring someone in who gives us something different on the left, who gives us what Saka gives us on the right. And
does that
have
mean a
Martinelli
dribbler?
as the backup.
Sorry to interrupt, Mark. Does that mean a dribbler to you, or does that mean somebody who's a finisher? As in, like, you're going to get me 15? Because I think this is what people are saying about Rodrigo. Like, Rodrigo, I don't think is somebody that just goes down the line and puts balls in. He's a bit of a dribbler that wants to come in field, and he gets goals. So it's just that it's two different players. I think if people think that Rodrigo is going to just be a better version of Martinelli that's going to be able to take players on, go down the wing and put balls in, I don't think he's that player, is he?
No, and I don't think that's necessarily what we'd be looking for. I think we'd be looking for someone who would do on the left what Saka might do on the right. You know, so I think that you're looking for a player like Nico Williams or Rodrigo if he got the chance to play on the left, or Rafinha. But you know, these are all players that are not going to come cheap. You know, obviously, like Williams is going to Barca. Rodrigo, I'm just really concerned we're going to spend an awful lot of time waiting for him, and it's not going to happen. You know, Rafinha, you could try but Barca are always going to need to sell players because of the problems they have registering them. And maybe Rafinha would like to come back, and I think he'd be a great signing because he's PL experienced, and I think he's an excellent player, as we saw last season in their run to the Champions League semis. So I'm, you know, there are lots of names. Rafael Leao, again, he's like AC Milan's Martinelli, in my opinion. He's a brilliant player, but has he actually carried on? But the problem I think there is that he's been at AC Milan. You know, now if he got a move to a top club like ourselves, you know, maybe he would then blow up. But it's also, you know, it's a question of whether those players have got the mental attitude for that. You know, otherwise, I think when you see a player stay at a club like Milan for so many years, I do start to wonder what their ambition is.
Yeah, we had Olivier Giroud, didn't we?
Specific player.
You had Olivier Giroud at Milan for 3-4 years when he was in his mid-30s. So
yeah, I mean, you know, Milan, and don't get me wrong, I love Milan. It's the only club I've ever supported outside of Arsenal, you know, externally, and I love Milan, but complete shit show at the moment. But there we go. So I think that I'd like us to sacrifice Trossard. I'd like to get the wages off the books. I'd like to try and recoup some sort of money from him. You're not going to get a lot, but maybe if you could get 15 million out of, you know, the Saudi league or something, because I think if you then put that towards bringing in a top player on the left, and Martinelli could be the you know, the understudy, the reserve for that. That's what I'd like to see. But I definitely think if we want to push on, the only way we're going to push on is with a new centre forward and a new left winger. And don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about a chalk on his boots left winger. I'm just talking about someone who plays in that wide left position, but also gives us, as Cookie said, the defensive work in the press that Martinelli is really good at, but also gives us the bit that Martinelli's missing. Martinelli's missing that, you know, and that's what we need to push on.
Well, what we had 2 or 3 seasons ago when he had that 15-goal season was what we thought was the explosion of, well, this is Gabriel Martinelli. He's a wide forward that's going to get us 10 to 15 goals a season. If he's going to get you 15 goals a season and 8 to 10 assists, then happy days. You've done your job. Crack on, mate. We get 20, 25 goals from Saka on the other side, and then you get 15 to 20 goals from your centre forward. You know, you've got coming up to 50 to 60 goals from your attack, and that's just your front attack. Then you have someone like Trossard who can chip in with 5 to 10. You've got
he's gone
Mary.
to Saudi, mate.
Huh?
He's gone to Saudi.
Well, exactly.
I've already sold him.
In your world, he's gone to Saudi.
I've pinned him off already.
But this is the thing, like 2 seasons ago, we had that like 90 odd goal season because the goals were spread around. Havertz was bagging some. So you've got someone like Havertz. If Havertz is alternating with another centre forward, if they can get those goals. But the sad thing is that Martinelli's been at Arsenal like 6 seasons as a number one, and he's only had that 1 season where he's really banged. And so I'm starting to think to myself, was that the outlier compared to all of these other seasons when he's going to pick up injuries, James, he's going to pick up knocks, and maybe he is just an 8 to 10 goal a season guy, and that's just who he is. And to Mark's point, we then therefore need something else. We need that 15 goal left winger, right?
Yeah, but even if you sign Leao, Rodrigo, there's no guarantees that they're going to get you 15 goals. Like, that's the difficult thing. There's no left winger I look at the minute and think, yep, he is definitely coming in and delivering us a minimum 10 goals. I just can't name you someone that I can say with certainty. Even Rodrigo, he would be my ideal candidate, but I can't say hand on heart, I know for a fact he's going to get us 10 goals, because he might not. He could be one of these guys that looks great, scores 5 goals, gets 5 assists, but contributes all round. For the record, I don't think he would. I think he'd get a lot more than that. But you never know when you're bringing someone in from the outside. With Martin, at least you know you're going to get some rate of return. I'm not saying we should just settle for what is kind of average. I think with Martin, he's one of my favourite players, so I find it really hard to dig into him too much. But we saw a really steady progression. And I think it was that 21-22 season where I felt he was really going on an upward trajectory. And then 22-23 was when he exploded, looked really, really good. And then he was frustrating the season before last and at times last season. But his rate of return is still fairly decent. And then you put on top that he knows the system. He's got, very good work ethic. He's not a player that you want to lose from the team. But what I think we need is someone with variety, because we know what Martinelli is. The league knows what Martinelli is. Everyone knows what he's going to do. He's going to run to the byline. He's going to try and put a ball into the box. He's going to try and beat his man. We know his game inside out by this point, and that means the rest of the league does as well. We need someone up. Sorry, Mark, go on.
Yeah, no, I was going to say teams don't double up on Martinelli because they don't need to. They don't worry about it. They don't. They generally trust that their right back is going to deal with him, and that's normally kind of what happens, So they don't double up on him. They're double, triple manning Saka because the guy is a bag of tricks. You don't know what he's going to do. He can go outside, he can come inside, he can beat you, and that's the issue. Martinelli, he doesn't do that, so that allows teams to just go right. Just the full back do it. Yeah, centre half you can just kind of drift over just in case, but they don't. He doesn't put the fear of God into teams, and we need to be able, like PSG do on both wings, like Barcelona do on both wings. We need to be scaring the shit out of teams so that they're all over the place. Yeah, left, right, they don't know. So it's not as easy as like focus on Saka. We can put 3 men over there. We can triple man mark him. Yeah, because that's where Arsenal's danger comes from. Over there, leave the right back. He'll sort out Martinelli. That's not a problem. We can't carry on like that. Not if the game now is win the title, win the Champions League. We need to upgrade on Martinelli. Like I said, I would still keep him as an understudy and hope that because he's still only young, hope that he will then with that fight his way into the team, but also provide that level of rotation, etc. Can he come on and give you an option that we don't have at the number 9? He's not the guys that we currently are having to play at number 9. He's a different option. He could come in and do that just to give the centre forward a break. Give Saka a break. There was a couple of times when he did quite well when he came on and played wide right when Saka got injured. So I would keep him, but I just think you've got to upgrade him.
Yeah. Let's do a quick fire question then, just because I saw his name on that left winger list. So either yes or no, but if you're going to expand on it, do it like in a sentence rather than a long monologue. Marcus Rashford. No, not you. It's just general, because I think it should be just a quick fire question, yes or no. Marcus Rashford. Mark, you can go first, then James.
No, thank you. No,
James?
I just don't see it working.
Yeah, it would have to be a no from me as well. I mean, there's a lot more detail I could go into why, but I'll keep it brief. It's a no.
All right, fine. I just think it's an interesting one because he did have an improved time at Villa, and I looked at some of his stats, and his running seemed to be a little bit more effective. I know that's Emery. He's obviously drilling it into him, and he's trying to, put himself out in there in the market. And would we get that if we had Marcus Rashford on the left-hand side? But 2 seasons ago, he was an absolute beast on that left-hand side for Man United. So I don't 100% rule it out. I probably 90% rule it out. Okay. Let's do a quick question. Let's do another question. James, I'll start with you on this one as I call up the last few fixtures of the season. Now, we don't want to do the same. I don't really want to do the same kind of what's the how many points do you think we'll get from there? Because there's just so many dependencies if you look at where we're at in the season. But looking at those fixtures, just a quick look, brief looking at those fixtures. I don't want to ask you how many points we think we'll get. It's more, what do you think the league is going to be won with points wise? And do you think that kind of end of the season, if we've got those games, those fixtures on screen, and we are within a point or two touching distance of whoever's top of the league, do you think we go on to win the league? So 2 questions there. How many points do you think it'll take to win the league next season? And then if we're within a point of whoever's top, do we go on and win the league with those fixtures there?
To be honest, I think you could probably win the league with a similar tally to what we saw this year, potentially, maybe slightly higher, maybe in the early 90s. But I think I'm not sure what version of Man City we're going to get. I think there's been such change in that squad recently. They've gone down a very different direction. They've lost key players in Kevin De Bruyne. You know, there's a real change of the guard there. I don't know what things are going to be like with them. I think they're going to have some inconsistencies throughout the season. Liverpool, I mean, to be honest, I hate to say it, I think they're not nailed on, but I think they've got a very, very good chance of retaining their title. You know, if Salah has another season like that, adding Verts into the mix.
Do you think he will? Do you think he honestly was going to have? And he's just had the most crazy season. He's never ever had that season for Liverpool before. And he was playing for a contract. And he's 33. And he's at the AFCON as well. Don't forget that for at least a month. Do you really think he's going to have the same season as he's just had?
The exact same, no. But if he has a season that is even half as good as that, that's still pretty decent when you consider that they've got Verts coming in and they've still got pretty good options in attack. You know, obviously they're likely to lose Darwin Nunez. They might be losing Luis Diaz potentially. We don't know if they're signing a new striker. So again, similarly to Man City, we don't know what version of Liverpool we're going to get, but Verts is an excellent signing. If Salah, like I say, is even half as good, he's still a valuable asset. Then they've got players like Cody Gakpo, who I thought was excellent last season. Jota is a player that might move on. He, wasn't all that exciting last year. So I think they've got a very, very, very good chance of retaining their title, as much as it pains me to say that. But I think we're, as we should be, next in line to try and nick it off them. And looking at that end of the season, I mean, it's very nice, isn't it? Apart from City away, Newcastle at home, I would expect us to beat Newcastle at home, even though that's a tough game. But those last 4 fixtures, you should win. If you're serious about winning the league, you should win every single one of them. So I'm looking at, if we're looking at those 8, you're expecting 6 wins, maybe a draw, maybe a loss. But ideally 6 wins, 2 draws, and that should. Hopefully, if we're there or thereabouts, we should be in a position where that would be enough to hopefully win the league. But you just don't know, mate. You just don't know. I would have said that if we were previewing the final 8 fixtures of the season where we lost out to City a couple of years ago by a point or 2, and they just won every single game. If we were up against the Liverpool sides and we're 1 or 2 points behind them, or a City side, let's not discount them, and we're 1 or 2 points behind, and we keep winning, but they keep winning as well, you've got to win every single game. So it's hard to know at this point what's going to be enough. But I would take, from those 8 games, 6 wins, 2 draws.
Yeah. So, Mark, I think that 86 points wins it next season. I think that I'm not as hot on... I mean, Verts is an amazing signing. I'm not as hot on Liverpool as some people are. I don't think Salah's going to have his amazing season. I don't think Liverpool are going to have it. Bearing in mind, Liverpool had the second best second fewest, I think it was a number of injuries across their whole season. So they had a very purple patch season, like we did the season before. When we got to 89 points, we had a very, very fortunate season from injuries. I think that will revert to the mean. I think Liverpool will have, I don't think they'll have it as bad as we had it last season, but I don't think they'll have it as good as they had it in terms of the injuries, which allowed them to build momentum. I think they've got a tricky start, not a difficult start like we have, but it's tricky. Whereas last season, they were able to get a bunch of easy wins under their belts, which built momentum. So yeah, my thoughts are 86 points. I think Liverpool are the ones to beat at the moment, but I'll be honest with you, that doesn't fill me with fear. And then I look at those last fixtures and think if we're within a point, I think we can go on. The Man City one would be the one you look at, but I'd say 7 out of 8 you could win. But where's your head at with those? So it's how many points do you think it'll be? Give us some thoughts on Liverpool and then those 8 games.
In terms of number of points, I don't know, mate. I really, I don't I couldn't really tell you how I would see that. I can only tell you who I think would be top, second, third. Yeah, that would be about as much as I can tell you. I still think the top 3 positions will be between us, Liverpool, and City. I think City will stick with it just because they have got some real quality players, but they're lacking at the back. They'll still have their defensive problems, I think. I'm not sure he's done much to fix that, although he has, if you're looking at, he signed the new left back, that'll help. Have they replaced Kyle Walker? I don't know. Hopefully he gets a few games from. But Liverpool, no, I don't think Liverpool will be the same Liverpool. I think they'll lose Salah at least for the CONCACAF. I think they will struggle because I think that Van Dijk and Salah are both another season older, and at the top of the Premier League, that takes a lot of doing. Every season that you get older, I think takes a lot. I'm hoping that Van Dijk it gets his cloak of invisibility removed and referees start
Tell me about it.
Officiating him the same way they would officiate other centre halves. So I don't think Liverpool will be at the level they were last year. And I think what it comes down to, when you look at that run-in, there's two. Well, the main factor is us. It's down to us. It's what we do. What we do in this transfer window, possibly what we do in January, but let's hope we're not scrabbling around in January looking for a bargain, looking for something important that we need, because that's never a good idea in January. But it's all about what we do this summer. It's about, can we have better luck this year with injuries? We had a great one the season before, barring Timber. This last season was dreadful. That was just like unbelievable. If we get a decent bit of luck this season and we get the players in we need, I think we're definitely up there. And you look at the end of that season and you say that, okay, Man City away is always tough. We haven't won there in a fair while. Newcastle at home we have a decent record against, and the last 4 games are games we should win. No offence to those 4 teams, but they're games we should win. But again, weren't necessarily games that we were winning last season against those kind of teams that are looking at 7th to 16th, say. But also, again, you throw into the mix, well, are we in the Champions League quarter-final? Are we in the Champions League semi-final? Are we deep into are we playing an FA Cup semi-final? And whilst I'd like us to go out and try and compete for all 4 trophies, I don't think there's any way we can do that. Certainly we do not have the squad to compete in 4 trophies. Bin the Carabao Cup off, please, bin it off. Play the under-21s. I could not give a shit about the League Cup. I know people will disagree and say that winning it breeds winning, and look at the teams that have won it and what they've done subsequently. But I just don't care about the League Cup. The FA Cup, yeah, of course we want to try and go deep in that, and that's it's lots of big gaps between those. So you want to try and do your best in there, but the aim has to be the Premier League and the Champions League. It's got to be those 2 competitions, because that is how you get measured. If you really want to be called, a top European football club, it's to win your own league, win the Champions League, or at least be challenging deep in to both of those. And we can do that, but the business this summer has to be done, and that's in terms of what we get in and who we may lose. We need a squad, because we don't have the squad as it stands at the moment is not there. We've already, if we lose Partey, whatever, but if we've already lost Jorginho as well, and who else has gone? Someone else, can't remember who. But
Tavares.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course that was a blow. I cried. But it's we really do have to. And the problem is, again, it's like it all goes back to the last 2 windows. We've left ourselves with a lot to do this window. because of the last two windows. You know, what you're looking at. You know, all right, we've brought in a better backup keeper than than the one that we brought in last year. We hopefully with Kepa, we've got Zubimendi, who I think is going to be excellent. I think he will be an excellent player in the Premier League, and you know, especially for us. But we need a top quality left winger. We need a top quality centre forward. And then you're still looking at, okay, is there another couple of places where we need, you know, can we rely on Calafiori backing up either Lewis Skelly or, you know, Gabriel, if we're saying that he's the understudy for the left back, left centre back. White and Timber, I think, is fine. Saliba, you know, we need, you know, I think we probably do. We've got Kirill, but, you know, I'm still not convinced. I would like us to get some. I would like us to sign the player that Bournemouth, Brighton sign that we then end up wanting to pay 60-70 million for. You know, why are we not? You know, I've seen some links today with the young French lad at, I think, Seville, not Lukonga, by the way. But and you know, that's, I think, why don't you sign him? We tried to do that with Lukonga and it didn't work. So if we got frightened, and we're not going to try and do that anymore. Same with Tavares. You know, why are we not? You know, we do need to try, I think, and take a punt on these players, but do it better than we did with Tavares and Lukonga, obviously.
Yeah, it's that's a really good way to actually wrap up. We started off this podcast today, this YouTube video, talking about how we were feeling from a transfer perspective, and that's where we've bookended it today. Thank you very much, Mark, for joining us.
No problem. Thank you for asking me.
And Cookie, thank you very much.
You're most welcome, Chris. Thank you for hosting.
It's always a pleasure. From my perspective, I think Mark picked up just some interesting bits that we can wrap up on. I think it's quite interesting that we need to be seen now as a team that wins the big stuff and not just a cup team. If you win the League Cup or you win the FA Cup, it's lovely. You know, I'm a season ticket holder, James, you're a season ticket holder, Mark, you're a season ticket holder. If we get to the League Cup final, it's a lovely day out. If we get to the FA Cup final, it's a lovely day out. But it's not going to quench the thirst of that we have as Arsenal fans to be seen as we are now the elite. We're at the top, and that is those two other trophies that Mark mentioned. As Mark said, you got to get your business done. We're not antsy yet, but I'm sure we'll get there soon. From myself, from Cookie, and from Mark, thank you very much for watching. We will be back at some stage. I know Amanda's got some pods penciled in for the coming weeks, but from now, thank you very much, and we'll catch you next time on the Same Old Arsenal podcast. See you later, guys.